If you can't control your emotions, people will control you. Most people hear that and think it only applies to anger or stress, but the truth runs much deeper than that. If you're here, chances are you've noticed something frustrating inside your own mind. The constant loop of thoughts, replaying conversations, analyzing small details, imagining worst-case scenarios that never even happen. This is what we call overthinking, but psychology shows it's not just a habit. It's a behavioral pattern connected to how your mind processes uncertainty, social pressure, and emotional fear. In this video, you're going to understand why you overthink everything. And it's not what you think it is. It's not because you're too sensitive, not because you're too intelligent, and not even because you care too much. The real cause is hidden in the way your brain tries to protect you from rejection, loneliness, and emotional unpredictability in social situations. And the ironic part, the more you try to control your thoughts, the more powerful they become. Stay with me because we're going to break down the psychological roots behind overthinking, how it silently affects your relationships, your self-image, and even your daily decisions without you noticing. And more importantly, what actually stops this cycle from controlling you. And what most people don't realize is how quietly this actually starts. It's never something dramatic. It doesn't feel like a problem at first. It feels normal. You send a message, you close your phone, and you move on. At least that's what you try to do. But then, out of nowhere, your mind pulls you back in. Was that too dry? Should I have added something else? Why did they leave me on scene? And here's the strange part. Nothing changed in reality. Nobody said anything. Nobody complained. Nothing broke. But inside your head, it already feels like something shifted. It's almost like your thoughts don't wait for facts anymore. They jump straight into interpretation. And not the calm kind, the emotional kind. The kind that feels real even when it isn't. You could be sitting in a cafe, looking around, pretending everything is fine, but your mind is replaying a 10-second interaction from earlier like it's a full movie scene. Every detail gets zoomed in. Every pause feels suspicious. Every silence becomes a question mark. And what makes it worse is that you start trusting it. Not because it's accurate, but because it's loud. That's where most people get trapped without even noticing it. The mind slowly stops being a tool and starts acting like a narrator. And not a neutral one, a biased one. One that always assumes something is slightly wrong, even when life is completely still. You ever notice how this gets stronger at night? When everything finally gets quiet, your brain doesn't rest. It starts organizing everything you ignored during the day. Conversations you forgot about suddenly come back. Tiny moments you didn't care about earlier now feel important. It's like your mind is cleaning a room that didn't even need cleaning. And in the process, it creates chaos. But here's the part nobody tells you. This isn't randomness. This pattern shows up more in people who are constantly trying to stay aware of how they come across. Not in a shallow way, but in a social survival way. Like your brain is always scanning. Am I being accepted right now? Did I do something off? Did I lose control of how I'm perceived? And the more you rely on that internal scanning, the less natural everything feels. Even simple conversations start feeling like a performance you didn't rehearse for. You're not just talking anymore, you're monitoring yourself talking. And that's where things slowly start shifting into something deeper. Because once your attention stops staying in the moment and starts living in your head, every situation begins to feel slightly heavier than it actually is. The strange thing about your mind is that it doesn't attack you when things are loud. It attacks you when things get social. You can be completely fine alone. No pressure, no eyes on you, no expectations. But the moment you step into a conversation, even something casual like talking to a coworker, something shifts inside. Subtle, but it's there. You start noticing yourself more than the other person. How you're standing, how fast you're talking, if your tone sounds right, if your reaction was too much or too little. And while all of this is happening, the conversation is still going. You're physically there, but mentally you're split in two. One part is speaking. The other part is watching and judging. It doesn't feel like fear at first. It feels like being careful, like you're just trying to not mess anything up. But over time, that carefulness turns into something heavier. You stop responding naturally and start adjusting yourself in real time. And the worst part? People usually can't see it from the outside. To them, you look normal. You're nodding, smiling, replying. Everything seems fine. But inside, it feels like you're slightly out of sync with yourself, like you're always a half second behind your own reactions. That's where the tension builds. Because when you're in that state, every tiny detail suddenly matters too much. A pause in the conversation doesn't feel like a pause anymore. It feels like a signal. A small change in someone's tone doesn't feel neutral. It feels like hidden meaning. Even eye contact starts feeling like something you need to manage. And this is where social situations quietly stop being social and start feeling like performance. You're no longer just talking to someone. You're also predicting how they're interpreting you while you're still talking. It becomes layered, almost like you're running two conversations at once. The real one, and the one in your head about the real one. And without noticing, you start losing the flow of being present. You don't remember what it feels like to just respond. You start planning your responses even mid-sentence. You recheck your words before they even fully come out. It's like your mind is constantly trying to edit you before anyone else can. But here's the part that makes it even more confusing. The more you do this, the more important every interaction starts to feel. A simple chat becomes something your brain treats like it has consequences, like there's something at stake, even when there isn't. And that's when social energy starts feeling draining in a way you can't easily explain. Not because people are difficult, but because your mind never fully leaves the interaction, even after it ends. Keeps replaying it, rechecking it, rebuilding it from different angles. And slowly, this doesn't just stay in conversations anymore. It starts following you everywhere, even into moments where nothing is happening at all. The hardest part of overthinking isn't what happens during the day. It's what happens when everything finally goes quiet. You ever lie in bed at night, thinking the day is over, and suddenly your brain decides it's time to replay everything? Not in order, not even logically. Just fragments. A sentence you said earlier. A facial expression someone gave you. A moment that felt normal at the time but now feels questionable. And the weirdest thing is, nothing new is happening. You're safe. You're still. But your mind acts like it's finally found time to review the footage. It starts small, almost harmless. But then it grows. That one awkward moment from earlier? Now it's not just a memory. It's a scene you start reinterpreting. Maybe they thought I was rude. Then your brain adds another layer. Or maybe I came off weird. And without realizing it, you're no longer remembering the day. You're reconstructing it. And this is where it gets tricky because your mind doesn't stop at facts. It starts building patterns. It connects unrelated moments just to create a sense of explanation. A delayed reply from a friend suddenly gets linked to something you said earlier. A neutral expression becomes distance. Silence becomes meaning. But none of that was actually there. It's your brain trying to close gaps that don't need closing. And late at night, when there's nothing else competing for attention, those gaps feel bigger than they really are. The absence of noise makes every thought louder. Even the smallest detail feels like it deserves analysis. What most people don't realize is that this isn't random overthinking. It's a mind that's been trained, over time, to stay alert even when there's no threat. So it keeps scanning, keeps searching, keeps trying to make sense of things that were already fine as they were. And the strange twist is, the more you try to solve those thoughts at night, the more important they feel. Because your attention gives them weight. Not truth, just weight. So what started as a quiet reflection turns into a loop. A loop where your own mind becomes the loudest thing in the room, even when everything outside is silent. And that loop doesn't just stay in the night anymore. It starts following you into the next day, quietly shaping how you move through everything without you even noticing it. And maybe that's the part most people miss. Overthinking doesn't always feel like a problem while it's happening. It feels like being aware, like being careful, like you're just trying to do things right. But slowly, it starts to take up space where calm reactions used to live, where simple moments used to stay simple. The truth is, your mind was never meant to carry every possibility at the same time. It was meant to respond, not to replay, to experience, not to endlessly review. And when you start noticing that difference, something shifts. Not overnight, not in a dramatic way, but in small moments where silence doesn't feel heavy anymore, where a message doesn't turn into a story, where a conversation doesn't need to be rewatched in your head to make sense. Because at the end of the day, most of what we overthink was never as deep as it felt in the moment. It only became heavy because we kept holding on to it longer than it was meant to stay. So if there's one thing to take with you from this, it's this. Not every thought deserves your attention, and not every silence is asking for meaning. Sometimes life is just happening, and your mind is the one turning it into something bigger than it is. And when you start learning to recognize that, even a little, you stop living inside your thoughts and start actually living inside your life. If you made it all the way to the end, you already understand something most people miss. Your mind is not always telling you the truth, and learning to notice that changes everything. If this video helped you see that differently, take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because here we break down how the human mind really works in a simple, real, and practical way you can actually use in daily life. And don't stop here. There's another video on the card right now that connects directly to this topic and goes even deeper into how your thoughts shape your behavior without you realizing it. You should watch it next. Also, check the playlist on screen, because every video there builds on this same idea and helps you understand yourself on a deeper level step by step. And I want to know something from you. If you stayed until the end, leave a comment with the number 1, 2, or 3, just choose one. No explanation needed. I'll know you were here until the last second.